It's a Trinamool Congress looking increasingly like the Congress party. And like the Congress party, will the bhaipo syndrome and the intense infighting mean that many of its plans to become a national alternative be derailed? I'm Pallavi Ghosh and my one take this week asks this question. What's happening inside the Trinamool Congress? What's the inside story? Is Mamata losing grip over a party which she formed herself, fighting aggressively against the left? You know, when I went and covered the Bengal elections, there was a seesaw movement. It was very clear that much of the decision to involve and employ a political strategist by Prashant Kishore was actually taken by Abhishek Banerjee. It was also very clear that Abhishek Banerjee was playing a very clear role as far as making the strategy of the party is concerned for the West Bengal elections. And also, Abhishek Banerjee was now actually building up his own coterie, his own group of people, which were very different from the old style politicians who were there with Mamata Banerjee right from the beginning. To that extent, it is very similar to what the Congress party is facing now. You had a Sonia Congress, you now have a Rahul Congress, you also now have a Priyanka Gandhi Vadra Congress. Each of them has their own coterie, which is fair enough, because when you want to make a change or when you want to have a grip over a political party, you also build up your own team, and it also means that a generation shift which takes place. But the problem is that this unraveling of the Trinamool Congress is happening perhaps a little bit too soon. There are only state elections where it has seen its success is but naturally in West Bengal. It has to put up a performance in Tripura and Goa. But more importantly, Mamata Banerjee now wants to present herself as an alternative to the Modi factor and also as the only one who can lead an opposition front. This crisis, which has hit the Trinamool Congress, where she once again has to play the same role which she played earlier when she formed the TMC, which is to have a stake, to have a control, that is going to become very difficult, and that could be a huge challenge and a spanner in her intention to provide an alternative to the BJP. Now, there are so many things which are happening. First, let's begin with why it happened. I think it was something which was waiting to happen. Whenever you want to make a change, whenever you build up an alternative form of a leadership, there always will be some who would not want to be a part of it. Now, there were some like Shreya Shogato Rai, Shruti Bandyopadhyay, and even Dinesh Trivedi, who were right with her from the beginning, who actually played an important role in the genesis of the Trinamool Congress. Like the Congress party, where, those who are seniors, a group of 23 in the Congress party, who started feeling sidelined when Rahul Gandhi started calling the shots. In the Trinamool Congress also, that is pretty much what happened. Now, there were some who were smart enough, who thought and they realized that Abhishek Banerjee was actually emerging as a very important power center, so it's best to switch sides. Or show, you come closer to him, so that you matter to him and you play an important role in his scheme of things. But naturally, what happened was that some of them were not accepted by Abhishek Banerjee, so they remained with Mamata Banerjee. They were very upset with obviously this change of guard which was taking place. They were also very upset about the fact that some of the leaders who were with them from the beginning was now actually switching over to Abhishek Banerjee. Today, in that crisis management which Mamata Banerjee did, many of those who were showing their loyalty more to Abhishek and less to Mamata Banerjee because they wanted to be on the right side, they are finding themselves as crossroads. Once again, Mamata Banerjee, in that working committee that she set up, she has involved people who were with her right from the beginning. It's a very key message to the party cadre who was confused, and also to Abhishek Banerjee that I call the shots. The time for me to retire has not yet come. The confusion within the Trinamool Congress that all was not going well, and the fact that she is losing a grip over the way the political strategy of the Trinamool Congress is working was actually, I think we get a sense when it comes to Goa. Now look at how the political strategy worked in Goa. It began by, taking on the Congress party massively, making snide comments at the Congress party. Abhishek Banerjee says, oh, we are not like Rahul Gandhi, we are not like the Congress party, we know how to fight and win elections. He said that in Tripura as well. You had a Mamata Banerjee in Mumbai asking where's the UPA. Now, Mamata being Mamata understood the import of it within 12 hours, which is why she told Derek O'Brien to do a press conference in Delhi in front of the national media and make it very clear that this is not what it meant. So, Derek O'Brien does a press conference and he says, look, what she was saying is technically correct. What she was saying is that UPA was formed to form a government. They are no longer in government and therefore, technically speaking, there is UPA not there. Very confusing, something which did not make a sense to a lot of people, but there you have it. It was very, very clear that Mamata Banerjee didn't want this perception to go out, that she was completely against the Congress party and she was seeing them as an enemy. So there were two things which were happening parallelly. On one hand, she's trying to soften up on the Congress party. On the other hand, Abhishek Banerjee sending out this message to Kada and also to Didi that look, if we want to emerge as an alternative, we first of all have to get rid of the Congress party because they still remain, apart from the BJP, the pan-India party. And there are one-on-one fights between the BJP and the Congress. We cannot let that happen. And therefore, he started speaking the language he did. Now, what happens in Goa? Suddenly, the Trinamool Congress starts talking about having an alliance with the Congress party. They reach out, Mahua Moitro reaches out, she says, if you don't form a government in Goa, I will hold you responsible if the BJP comes back to power, we need to come. Congress internally realized that, boss, we don't need the Trinamool Congress. And the second thing is, they were certainly getting the act together, so they started snubbing the Trinamool Congress. What does it look like? When you look at the TMC strategy in Goa, it looks so confusing. On one hand, you have an Abhishek Banerjee, who's supposed to be the heir apparent of Mamata Banerjee, snubbing the Congress consistently, being insulting. But on the other hand, suddenly the central leadership of the Trinamool Congress starts reaching out to Congress. This confusing signal actually reflects or manifests the confusion within the Trinamool Congress. I remember once something which my source within the TMC told me. I think the unraveling of the TMC also began when the hiring of political strategists. Yes, these are different times, but many close observers that were close to Mamata Banerjee said that Mamata Banerjee is very different from, say, a Jagan Mohan Reddy or even the present Congress. She's a street fighter, she knows how to connect with the crowd, she's full of drama. She doesn't really need a political strategist. She only needs someone to rein her in. But if she could win 2 elections, then why would she need someone? But what was drilled into her, what my sources were telling me, was that, boss, you have to understand, this time the BJP threat is real. We have to match the BJP in its social media campaigns, in its strategy, and therefore it is very important that we hire political strategists. Behind it, of course, was Abhishek Banerjee, completely smitten by Prashant Kishore. Now, one senior leader within the Trinamool Congress told me that there was a meeting which was going on at Barakpur, in which Dinesh Trivedi was very much a part of the political strategy meeting, and suddenly he saw in the last row, there were these young boys and girls, and he asked them, who are they? Why are they sitting in this closed door meeting? So he was told that they are actually a part of the IPAC team and they were taking down notes. He told them to leave. This note-taking, the IPAC actually telling even the senior leaders of the Trinamool Congress how they should talk to the media, how they should be seen publicly, has not gone down well with the senior guard. Well, she won the elections, all is well. But then they started looking at Tripura and Goa and other states as well. That's where the problem began. Unlike the Congress party, where there's a G23 which is very vocal, in the Trinamool Congress, no one is that vocal yet. I'm not going to rule out a G23 movement. They're more subtle. She has more control because, unlike the Congress where there are many Congresses, over here there's only one Mamata Banerjee Congress with another Abhishek Banerjee Congress coming up. Mamata Banerjee, to her credit, understood it very soon that things are going out of control. I don't want a Congress party to happen to us. And therefore, it is very important to take charge now, which is why when that meeting took place at a residence where she completely did away with that whole post which was given to Abhishek Banerjee. So effectively, he's no longer the General Secretary or the National Secretary of the party at all. But she also, by way of the members, she got into her group and the committee, she had to send out a message that, boss, my people are going to be important. To that extent, I think it's very, very different from the Congress party. That whole thing about whether it's going to be Sonia's people, whether it's going to Rahul people, that is kind of upsetting the entire cart which is called the Congress party and which is reflecting. What's going to happen now? If you think there's a closure, there's definitely not going to be a closure. Abhishek Banerjee is ambitious. He is not going to be speaking out very openly now. But of course, he's seething with anger. He feels, what my sources tell me, is that many of the seniors have again derailed Mamata Banerjee and made her think that, things have to go back to the earlier form. Things have changed. So that's one problem. The second problem is, many in the opposition who called her the tigress, like the Aam Aadmi party, like the Samajwadi party, will be not very comfortable with what is happening in the TMC. A confused TMC which is slipping, which seems to be derailed, doesn't suit the agenda of an attempt to form an united opposition front. And therefore, that's where the problem begins. In the run-up to 2024, will a Mamata Banerjee, who may be seen and perceived as not having a grip over a party, who's not been able to control a bhaipo, then be accepted as someone who's going to be their leader? Let's not forget what is happening down south. Suddenly, the KCR has started taking on the BJP. He has his own political concerns because he doesn't want the Telangana to go the BJP way, and he's learning from Mamata Banerjee early. Don't take the BJP for granted. But what is happening is he's trying to emerge also as a national alternative. That could be a problem for Mamata Banerjee. Third, as of now, no one is leaving the Trinamool Congress for the BJP or any other political party because she is in control of West Bengal. But once the governance goes for a toss, once we come close to Lok Sabha elections, don't rule out the possibility of more and more people within the TMC actually getting upset with the growing clout of Abhishek Banerjee, or an Abhishek Banerjee who now wants to bounce back. That's what my sources are telling me, is that Abhishek Banerjee is not one to keep quiet. He came back home after that meeting. He had a one-on-one meeting with Mamata Banerjee. He was upset, he was sulking, he's now seething with anger. And at this point of time, he's likely to lie low. He's not going to say much, he's not going to speak out much. But there's going to be a massive rethinking. Is there going to be a halt to the national plans or, looking out of West Bengal? I think she's now going to start concentrating more and more of the politics of the Trinamool Congress in West Bengal. Governance may go for a toss. And for now, she's caught at a crossroad. Whether to look at the national plans, project herself as a national leader and provide a TMC and pitch itself as a national alternative, or gain grip of a party. It's again karma. Mamata Banerjee was told in private by some of the senior leaders like Sudeep Bandyopadhyay and many others that, listen boss, you have to step in now. Things are going out of control. Some like Dinesh Trivedi have been warning her in the past before he left to join the BJP that this was exactly what is going to happen. I think the Prashant Kishore breach is going to be almost near complete. It's now going to be just a formality. It's interesting days ahead, not just for the national opposition politics, but more important within the Trinamool Congress. It's that moment once again for Mamata Banerjee where she has to create a grip over her party. The same moment when she formed the Trinamool Congress to take on the left. Do give in your reactions on the social media timeline. Thank you so much for watching.